What happens when a Mexican drug lord is caught? In this video, we are going to look at the gruesome fate the cops had to suffer following the arrest of the drug lord Joaquin Guzman, also known as El Chapo's son, Ovidio Guzman Lopez. The current situation in Mexico is dire, marked by violence and a dangerous trend. Two significant events have contributed to this troubling state. One of them involves the arrest of El Rathan, also known as one of El Chapo's sons, in January 2023. This arrest resulted in bloodshed, which sadly isn't uncommon when El Chapo and his sons are involved. The chaotic arrest of the Guzman Lopez family reflect the brutal ways in which Mexican cartels operate. El Rathan, born into a notorious family, was already part of El Chapo's trade, given the criminal legacy passed down to him. Growing up witnessing violence, he joined the Sinaloa cartel alongside his older brother Edgar, who was tragically assassinated in 2008. Despite the risks associated with their father's empire, El Chapo's sons were groomed to take on his criminal legacy. The revelations about El Rathan and his brothers, obtained through captive testimonies often involving torture, shed light on their involvement in criminal activities. The situation in Mexico remains highly concerning, with daily acts of brutality committed by cartels and ongoing challenges for law enforcement. These individuals face gruesome fates orchestrated by the Chapitos themselves, disposing of bodies throughout the area. Some victims were shot, while others were fed to tigers, dead or alive. One victim was tortured by having a corkscrew inserted into their muscles, ripping out one muscle, and then having hot chilies placed in their open wounds and nose before being shot. The indictment alleges that the victims were then dumped near a motel off a highway. The Chapitos, notorious for their involvement in the illegal exotic pet trade and deriving pleasure from torturing people, have committed heinous acts, ordered murders of informants, rival traffickers, and even a singer who declined to perform at a wedding. The nickname El Rathan refers to Ovidio, known for his exaggerated reaction to rejection, possibly stemming from a childhood incident at a Catholic school. The influence of their father, El Chapo, who was convicted for drug trafficking and ordering the murder of a cardinal, is evident in their actions. Throughout his school years, classmates and teachers were aware of Ovidio's notorious father, El Chapo. Some kids were warned by their families to stay away from him, and teachers themselves were cautious. Despite being a sweet and innocent child, the notoriety surrounding his father led to Ovidio's exclusion from school events. He was never invited to birthday parties, and even when the school organized a trip to Disney World, Ovidio was left out. This rejection and isolation took a toll on him, and he eventually dropped out of school after 6th grade. Embracing the bias against him, Ovidio followed his brothers into a life of crime. In 2008, when his brother Edgar was killed, it only fueled their determination to make the Sinaloa cartel the most powerful ever. In 2016, El Chapo's arrest further impacted their aspirations. Finally, in 2019, after multiple prison escapes and decades of being pursued, El Chapo was sentenced to life in prison on various charges. The impact of having El Chapo in a U.S. prison cannot be overstated. Despite his ability to bribe his way out of prison in Mexico twice before, he will now spend the rest of his life in solitary confinement at the Florence Supermax, the toughest high-security prison in the U.S. His extradition was a significant step for the U.S. as the Mexican government was no longer resistant to it after his second escape. While the kingpin strategy that worked when Pablo Escobar was killed did not have the same effect on the Sinaloa cartel, in fact, it made El Chapo's sons, known as Los Chapitos, even more powerful. Despite being put on a do-not-deal list and facing asset freezes by the United States Treasury Department, they continue to lead the cartel, which remains the largest trafficker of heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamines in the Chicago area and beyond. By 2016, the names of Ovidio, Yvonne, and Jesus, also known as Los Chapitos, emerged as the official heirs to the Sinaloa cartel throne. They were quick to adapt to market demands, transitioning from farming avocados to producing chemical precursors for drugs. Following the raid on Ovidio's house, he initially opened fire on the officers but eventually surrendered when he realized he was outnumbered. Meanwhile, Ivan, aware that he was the next target, prepared for the raid and mobilized his own forces. Shockingly, Ovidio attempted to prevent further bloodshed. However, when bribery failed, intimidation became the cartel's method of choice. The Sinaloa sicarios started killing police officers demanding Ovidio's release. They set fire to cars, blocked roads, invaded the airport, and imposed a curfew in the region. Hostages were taken and parts of the city were besieged. After 4 hours, authorities caved in and released Ovidio to avoid more casualties. President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador ordered his immediate release to prevent further loss of life. The decision to release Ovidio Guzman in Las Vegas was made to protect citizens and avoid further bloodshed. However, this move has raised concerns and sent a message that the authorities can be easily intimidated. Analysts warn that it sets a dangerous precedent, allowing cartels to exert control and undermining the state's authority. Despite being on the DEA's radar and facing rewards for his capture, Ovidio continued to flaunt his wealth, showcasing his luxurious lifestyle on social media. This has made him a prime target for federal agents in Chicago, highlighting the ongoing challenges in bringing peace to Mexico. Despite previous attempts to arrest Ovidio Guzman, the son of El Chapo, in a more organized and final raid, the operation in early January 2023 resulted in significant violence and casualties. Around 200 special forces conducted the joint operation and successfully arrested Ovidio, who was close to his brother's grave at the time. However, the capture triggered a violent response from the Sinaloa cartel in their stronghold of Culiacan. The clash between cartel members and the military led to the deaths of 19 cartel members and 10 military personnel. The president of Mexico defended the operation, refusing to be intimidated by the cartel. The incident escalated into what felt like a full-blown riot, with multiple casualties and acts of violence, including attacks on police officers, soldiers, civilian planes, and airports, attributed to the Sinaloa cartel. In retaliation for the arrest of Ovidio Guzman, the Sinaloa cartel launched a violent display of power, engaging in shootouts with the Mexican Air Force, commercial airlines, and targeting facilities at the Culiacan International Airport. Despite their efforts, the cartel failed to rescue Ovidio. He was swiftly transported to the highly secure Altiplano prison, the same facility from which his father had previously escaped. However, the prison's security had been significantly strengthened, making it highly improbable for Ovidio to escape. Mexican authorities also planned to extradite him to the United States, where he would likely face a similar fate as El Chapo. If placed in the Florence Supermax prison, Ovidio would endure extreme isolation and strict confinement. The arrest of Ovidio Guzman Lopez, son of the notorious drug lord El Chapo, resulted in a violent outburst and loss of lives among the security forces in the state of Sinaloa. The timing of the arrest, just days before U.S. President Joe Biden's visit to Mexico, was seen as a strategic move by the Mexican government to demonstrate their commitment in the war on drugs. In 2020 alone, over 500 police officers in Mexico were killed by cartels, emphasizing the dangers faced by those in uniform. The ongoing violence underscores the challenges in combating organized crime and maintaining security in the region. In September 2022, 5 officers training in a sports center were shot and killed by sicarios. 2 more officers were shot when they arrived at the scene. Police chiefs have also fallen victim, like Ernesto Soto, who was ambushed and riddled with bullets. The situation has become so dire that some communities have formed vigilant groups, arming even children in their fight against cartels. Despite ongoing efforts to arrest cartel leaders, the question remains whether the bloodshed will cease and if the Sinaloa cartel's reign will ever come to an end. The war on drugs in Mexico faces daunting challenges and heartbreaking solutions. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe as we have more in line.